So they will expand on them. And, later on, when they are okay, they are standing on their feet, in other words, financially, they can divorce them. So Allah, gave a revelation to the Prophet that this is forbidden. So now, these are part of the Muhajirin and Ansar. So this was the question I asked him. I said, will you want to, marry prostitutes and be eating, drinking and eating from the money of prostitution? So inshallah, I will conclude here on this segment and we can listen to the third segment.
In Jannah, yeah? As a Sunnis, if someone cites clear verse to me, and Allah mentioned Muhammad Ansar Jannah, I'm not going to start looking for anything to invalidate Allah's statement, except if I'm a person of sickness in my heart toward these people. Because clearly Allah said, السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه وأعد لهم جنات تجري تحتها الأنهار. Another قراءة من تحت الأنهار خالدين فيها رضي الله عنهم. What are you doing? You as a Shia, you should not look for anything outside the Quran to go against Allah's statement, because according to your belief, if any hadith, even if it's sahih, go against Quran, you should throw it away. But because you're a person, you have desires, al-hawa, what are you doing? You are looking for anything to invalidate Allah's statement. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this blessed month. Ittaqillah ya akhi. Oh yeah, miskin. Fear Allah, Muhammad. So this verse clearly said they are in Jannah. Do you accept this verse firstly? I'm going to ask you, do you accept this verse firstly?
Okay, of course, I accept the Quran entirely without any disputation.
Do you accept this verse? They are in Jannah.
Yes, of course.
So what are you looking for? Why are you looking for hadith?
Okay. So now you've spoken. So allow me to also speak.
All right, go on.
Okay. So now, when you're telling me, it is my hawa I am following, and I shouldn't go against the Quran. This is a very good advice. But then when you look into the history of the supposed Muhajirin wal Ansar, when they themselves do not prove...
Again, you're proving my point. You're proving my point.
Listen,
you go into history.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
I'm sorry, I have respect. I have to stop here. You just agreed with me that if a hadith go against the Quran and throw it away, what you do when you go into history? If history against in the Quran,
because the Quran does not. The Quran, you're not allowing me speak. You're not allowing me speak. Let me speak also. Muhammad. No, وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. And those who follow them in goodness, Allah is pleased with him and they are pleased with Allah. Now, if they are not pleased with Allah, what do? You would still follow them?
But Allah says pleased with them. Are you serious?
No, Allah is... No. وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Now, if they are proven, I have a question.
Okay.
If they are proven, I will give one example. You can defend it, no problem. If they prove not to be pleased with Allah, would you still follow them?
Brother, are you going against the Quran
I am asking you. Is it a yes or a no?
You go. There's no way that Muhammad.
Okay. When Umar ibn al-Khattab at Hudaybiyah, listen, brother. أخي حبيبي بس اسمعني شوي. اسمعني. At Hudaybiyah.
Muhammad, before
Habibi, just listen to this point.
We'll go to Hudaybiyah.
Habibi, listen.
Outside.
You're not allowing me speak. Listen, at Hudaybiyah, when Umar ibn al-Khattab questioned the Prophet, he doubted the Prophet, he doubted the nubuwwah of Muhammad.
He didn't. He didn't.
Yeah, and he said, I have never doubted, like on that day at Hudaybiyah.
He didn't say that at all.
At that position, again. In that position, was he pleased with Allah?
Okay, now I'm speaking now, yeah? Okay, and
now
no,
I'm asking you. You're not responding to my question.
No. Before that, you have to understand what you're doing again. Okay, Muhammad, you proving my point. I will speak about Hudaybiyah because every point.
So no matter what they do, Allah is pleased with them. No matter what they do.
Okay, you remember. Look, what I'm showing here to even the Shia are watching us, that you cannot utilize Quran to support your belief. What you're doing, you're going against the Quran for the sake, because you've already have
Are you a
problem. Let me
Quranist,
finish.
Shamsi?
Let me
Are
finish.
you Quranist?
Look, I don't want to
Are you
mute you.
Quranist?
I don't want to mute you. Look, I have respect. I don't want to mute you, Muhammad. So let me finish, please. Look, I'll let you come. I'll let you speak. We'll go to Hudaybiyah. You mentioned Hudaybiyah. Don't worry. I'm not going to skip it. I'm going to come to it. So let's step by step. The point here is, because I don't want to mention many points, then I miss points, because some people do record and misquote my and edit my videos. Yeah. So I don't mind, because people keep lying against you. But let us go back to points. What I'm showing you, Muhammad, may Allah guide us and guide you to the truth. I'm showing you
I mean,
the verse in the Quran, because you already have problem with the Sahaba, with the Muhajir Ansar. So what you're doing, even though there is a clear verse, Allah said is pleased with them and they are in Jannah. So what you do, instead of thinking, what? My prior belief about Muhajir Ansar clearly go against the Quran. Instead of rejecting your prior belief, what you're doing, you still holding your prior belief and trying to twist the Quran for the sake to go in line with your prior belief about the Muhajir Ansar. So you're going outside the Quran. You're going against your own belief of Shiism, that if hadith is
no,
sahih
this is
and
not
you go
true. This is
against the
not true.
Quran, you reject the
This
hadith,
is not the
let
case. I will
alone
prove it to
history.
you.
Okay,
I will prove it
wait,
to you.
step. Muhammad, you have to let me step by step. Okay, so and now you mentioned about I said Allah is pleased with them. They are pleased with Allah. You mentioned about Hudaybiyah. Hudaybiyah and Nabi Ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu ardah, he never doubted the prophethood of the Nabi alayhi salam, because you have to differentiate between a rhetorical question, okay, and like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون.
No,
Is
no,
Allah
no. He
doubting?
said
No,
he
wait,
he
wait, wait.
testified.
Wait,
He
you have to let me
testified on
finish. You have to
himself.
let me
He said,
finish.
"I have never doubted like
No,
I doubted at
no, no,
Hudaybiyah."
no. Let me finish. Let me finish. You have to let me
Listen,
finish.
listen.
Yeah,
I will
you're not gonna
still.
let me
I
finish.
can still. I can give you the references. Unfortunately,
Look,
I don't. I'm not
look,
using
look,
here two phones, so I
look,
cannot bring
look,
them
look.
out.
Muhammad, I don't wanna mute you, so you have to let me finish, okay? And now listen carefully. And now, firstly, you have to understand, all right? Ibn Khattab, he said afterward, he said doubt opinions, because out of jealousy of a deen. So he's the message of Allah. He said, he's like, he loved the deen. But of course, he, for his opinion, that's why he said, regrets. He said, don't follow opinion. But now, when Allah says he's pleased with them, doesn't not mean they're going to become perfect or have no mistakes. That's what's happening with the Shia. Shia, they think if Allah is pleased with the people, means they're going to become perfect. They don't make no mistakes. No, they will still make mistakes. You understand? But overall, Allah is pleased with them. And what is very astonishing in here, that you are leaving the clear verses where Allah is pleased with the Sahaba, but because of desires and hawa, you start looking for any mistakes or any clear things just to invalidate Allah's statement. Instead of saying Allah said it, so whatever they did, may Allah forgive them. They're human beings like us. Maybe they get angry sometimes. Maybe shaitan play with their minds. They're not perfect. You understand? But overall, Allah said is pleased with them. So my point here is, are you happy that the Muhajir Ansar are in Jannah, like Allah said?
Should I answer you?
Are you happy that like Allah said, they are in Jannah? Are you happy with that?
Um,
Naam. So, as a Sunni, if someone, he said, this is his statement, he said, if someone cites a clear verse to him and Allah mentions Muhajirin and Ansar, they are in Jannah, he will not look for anything to invalidate Allah's statement, except if the person is a person of sickness in his heart towards these people. Now, basically, the position he's given here is isma. He's given the Sahaba or the people he calls Muhajirin and Ansar, he's given them isma mutlaqa. There is no room here for questioning. He has declared the Sahaba to be ma'asumin. So next time, you should stop hiding behind your fingers. You believe in isma. You believe in isma to Sahaba. The Sahabas you have cherry picked from the lot. You believe in their isma, and this is what you are expressing here. So I am asking him now, sorry. I'm asking him, do the Shia reject all the Muhajirin and Ansar? He has, positioned himself as the lawyer for the Muhajirin and Ansar. Do we, the Shia, do we reject all the Muhajirin and Ansar? The answer is absolutely no. Migrants like Ammar ibn Yasir, Bilal, Al-Miqdad ibn al-Aswad, Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, Khalid ibn Sa'id, alayhim salam, they are held in utmost respect by the Shia. And they were the loyal Shia of Imam Ali. They were the pioneers of Shia Islam, of Shiism, of bin Rafidis. They were also Sahaba of Rasulullah. And these companions, they refused to give bay'ah to Abu Bakr. And they were Muhajirin. Does Shamsi know this? That they were Muhajirin who refused to give bay'ah to Abu Bakr? So what will be the view or the position of Shamsi on these people? They rejected Abu Bakr, so they were Rafidis. Of course, among the Ansar, you have Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari alayhi salam, who lived a very long life, has a prophecy from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari, he met Imam Baqir alayhi salam, our fifth Imam. And of course, Jabir alayhi salam, he's held in utmost respect by the Shia. And he was from the Ansar. And he was a Sahabi. Similarly, we can say about Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, alayhi salam, from the Ansar, who is respected highly by the Shias. And I am saying alayhi salam. And these two were from the Ansar. And they were the pioneers of Shia Islam from the Ansar. So the problem, is not about Shamsi defending the Muhajirin and Ansar or having belief in them or wanting to protect the Quran with his wrong interpretation of the verse 9-100, which does not mean, all the Muhajirin and Ansar were Sabiqun al-Awwalun. And neither does the verse, guarantee all of them Jannah. Rather, the very allegations Shamsi is throwing at the Shia, that we have desires and we have prior beliefs, we want to tailor the Quran to our beliefs. We want, he's the one, that have this desire to do. He's actually doing this. He has the belief in protecting his idols, in protecting the statues, certain statues from Quraysh, who were, some of the Sahaba like Abu Bakr and Umar. We don't need to hide it. His entire, pulling his hair and all that, it's in order to protect these two idols. It is not because of the Muhajirin and Ansar. He wouldn't have any problem throwing any other Sahabi under the bus if Abu Bakr and Umar stood there. They actually, they are not scrutinized by the Shias. His entire problem is because we have a problem with this too. This is the entire reason why he's pulling his hair or his hairs. So he's trying to close the door at any scrutiny or criticism of their wrong actions and the oppression they perpetrated against the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. He twists and violates verse 9-100 to close the door at any criticism of their atrocious acts against the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And the verse does not give a blank check to all the Muhajirin and Ansar. So now I would like to ask him, did Sunni scholars agree among themselves on the conditions of what makes one to be considered as part of the Sabiqun al-Awwalun among the Muhajirin and Ansar? Or does Shamsi think anyone who simply did the physical migration, even someone like Muhajir Qais, who migrated for the sake of a woman, has become Sabiqun al-Awwalun from the Muhajirin and Ansar, who should be praised and has a direct ticket to Jannah? Even the hadith of Al-Bukhari, hadith number 54, the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, the reward of deeds depends upon the intention, and every person will get the reward according to what he has intended. So whoever migrated for Allah and his apostle then his migration is for Allah and his apostle. And whoever migrated for worldly benefits or for a woman to marry, his migration was for what he migrated for. So therefore, based on this hadith, will we truly ever know who were the true muhajirin based on their intentions? The answer is no. We wouldn't really know, and neither does Shamsi know. Now let's even see what Sunni scholars have said about this verse. Ibn Kathir, in his tafsir, volume 4, page 203, he said, قال الشعبي السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار من أدرك بيعة الرضوان عام الحديبية. Ash-Shu'bi is being quoted by Ibn Kathir in his tafsir that he said the first or the foremost among the first of the Muhajirin and Ansar are those who saw the Bay'atul Ridwan at Hudaybiyah. He also mentioned As-Sabiqun al-Awwalun are those who prayed facing the two Qiblas. He said this was the view of Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Muhammad ibn Sirin, Al-Hasan al-Basri, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and Qatada. So even the definition of what makes one to be part of the Sabiqun al-Awwalun from the Muhajirin and Ansar, the Tabi'een, and the earliest generations of Muslims, they differed on it. Those whom Shamsi believes he follows, and those he believes that they followed in goodness, they did not deem, every person of the Muhajirin and Ansar as Sabiqun al-Awwalun. And these were the heads of the Tabi'een. Since Shamsi believes that they are all promised paradise, Shamsi should then, accept the definition of this Tabi'een, or the definitions and their positions, that not all the Muhajirin and Ansar were Sabiqun al-Awwalun. And he should follow what they are saying. It could be this, it could be this, it could be that. So, this point, and of course there's another scholar that says it is those who it was actually those who witnessed Badr. So you have at least like 3 different definitions, at least. So this points to the fact that the earliest generations of Muslims, whom Sunnis revere, were not in agreement of who were the Sabiqun al-Awwalun from the Muhajirin and Ansar. This clearly demonstrates the fact that the earliest generations of Muslims did not believe all the Muhajirin and all the Ansar were there for Sabiqun al-Awwalun. While, Shamsi is acting like he has reinvented the wheel. As if, the Sunni position is unified. He's misconstruing the verse to imply all the Muhajirin, all the Ansar were Sabiqun al-Awwalun. Now, let's for argument's sake say the position of Sha'bi is the correct position. And it was the companions who gave the bay'ah of Ar-Ridwan at Hudaybiyah that constitute as-Sabiqun al-Awwalun. They were Sabiqun al-Awwalun. Let's assume this. Then there will be a problem. Do you know what's the problem? We'll give you the case of Abdul Rahman ibn Udais. He was one of the killers of Uthman ibn Affan. So you have Sabiqun al-Awwalun killing Sabiqun al-Awwalun. While the Quran says, if you kill a believer, your abode is Jahannam in Surah An-Nisa. If you kill a believer, your abode is Jahannam. But we have over here, Abdul Rahman ibn Udais, he's killing Uthman bin Affan. In Usud al-Ghaba of Ibn Athir, volume 3, page 469, he mentioned Abdul Rahman bin Udais. He said, له صحبة وشهد بيعة الرضوان وبايع فيها وكان أمير الجيش القادمين من مصر لحصر عثمان بن عفان لما قتلوه روي عنه جماعة من التابعين بمصر. He said, Abdul Rahman bin Udais, he was a companion, he witnessed the bay'ah of Ar-Ridwan, he gave the pledge to Rasulullah, and he was one of the commanders of the army that came from Egypt to besiege Osman bin Affan when he was killed. And a group of tabi'een have narrated from Abdul Rahman bin Udais in Egypt. So if our friend, claims the report which lists or includes Abdul Rahman as among those who pledged the allegiance at Hudaybiyah is weak, for example, then we would like him, to present us with a list of those names who pledged the allegiance at Hudaybiyah. And also, even then, it still does not prove his point. All those companions were promised paradise. Additionally, does Shamsi even know what the pledge was for? They pledged not to run away from the battlefield. And do you know the implication of running away from the battlefield? If you're standing up for Islam, you're fighting on the battlefield in the presence of Rasulullah, and you run away, do you know what is the implication? Because these people are promised, according to him, Jannah. They shouldn't be running away from the battlefield, from defending Islam. But Rasulullah is obliging them that they should give bay'ah not to run away in the bay'ah of Hudaybiyah. And if this is not enough, we have the example of the great companion Amr bin Hamak al-Khuza'i. He did hijrah to the Prophet. And this account is mentioned in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. This is Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, volume 11, page 219. He said, Umar bin Hamak bin al-Kahin al-Khuza'i Aslama qabla al-Fath wa Hajar. He became a Muslim before the conquest and he migrated. Waqil, and it is also said, إنه إنما أسلم عام حجة الوداع. That during the farewell pilgrimage he became a Muslim. وقد ورد في حديث أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله دعا له أن يمتعه الله بشبابه, that Allah will bless him with youthfulness. فبقي 80 سنة لا يرى في لحيته شعرة بيضاء. He lived for 80 years and there was not one gray hair on his beard. فبقي ومع هذا كان أحد الأربعة الذين دخلوا على عثمان. And even with these facts, he was one of those who entered upon Uthman. ثم صار بعد ذلك من شيعة علي. And after that, he was part of the Shia of Ali. And this was a companion. Now, who is greater? Shamsi or this companion of Rasulullah, who was a Shia of Ali, based on what Ibn Kathir is reporting. فشهد معه الجمل وصفين. He witnessed Jamal and Siffin. وكان من جملة الذين قاموا مع حجر بن عدي فَتَطَلَّبَهُ زِيَادٌ. He was with those in the group of Hujr bin Adi, and Ziyad, that's I think the brother of Muawiyah, he ordered for their arrest. فَهَرَبَ إِلَى الْموصل. He ran away to Mosul. فَبَعَثَ مُعَاوِيَةَ إِلَى نَائِبِهَا فَطَلَبُوهُ فَوَجَدُوهُ قَدْ اخْتَفَى فِي غَارٍ فَنَهَشَتْهُ حَيَّةٌ. So Muawiyah sent to the governor of Mosul. So he ordered for his arrest and he disappeared in a cave and a snake bit him. فَمَاتَ, he died, فَقَطَعَ رَأْسَهُ, and his head was severed. They chopped off his head. MashaAllah. فَبَعَثَ بِهِ إِلَى مُعَاوِيَةَ, his head was sent to Muawiyah. فَطِيفَ بِهِ فِي الشَّامِ وَغَيْرِهَا, his head was taken in Sham and in other places. فَبَعَثَ بِهِ إِلَى مُعَاوِيَةَ فَطِيفَ بِهِ فِي الشَّامِ وَغَيْرِهَا. فكان أول رأس طيف به ثم بعث معاوية برأسه إلى زوجته. Then Muawiyah sent his head to his wife. So these are all examples of companions who, can be considered as Sabiqun al-Awwalun, and this is what happened to them. This is how they dealt with one another. But according to Shamsi, all of them to Jannah. With such examples, did Sunni scholars agree that the Sabiqun al-Awwalun are all Muhajirin and Ansar? The answer is no. Are all the Muhajirin and Ansar Sabiqun al-Awwalun and Allah is pleased with all of them, no matter what they do? The answer again is no. Now, if we look into the wording of the verse, والسابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه وأعد لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا ذلك الفوز العظيم. Now, if we look at this wording, let's see what the word min actually means here. Min, it's actually from the Muhajirin and Ansar, the Sabiqun al-Awwalun, from the Muhajirin wal Ansar. Ibn Ashur said, the min is lit-tab'id, is an indication of some and not an indication of all. This is from Ibn Ashur in his tafsir at-Tahrir wa Tanwir, under the Surah At-Tawbah verse 100. Ibn Ashur also said the commentators differed as to the time period at which the descriptions of the foremost among the Muhajirin and the Ansar. So the description, they differed on it. Was it the first wave of migrants? Was it the second wave? Among them, we had the Sabiqun and the Awwalun. So he said that Abu Musa, Ibn Musayyib, Ibn Sirin, and Qatada said, foremost among the Muhajirin and Ansar refer to whoever prayed facing the two Qibla. Ata said, those who witnessed the battle of Badr. Ash-Sha'bi said, those who witnessed the pledge of Hudaybiyah. Ibn Ashur, At-Tahrir wa Tanwir, under the Surah of At-Tawbah, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 100. In Minhaj as-Sunnah of Ibn Taymiyyah, the prophet of Shamsi, he said, Minhaj as-Sunnah, volume 7, page 446, he said, وَإِنَّمَا كَانَ النِّفَاقُ فِي قَبَائِلِ الْأَنصَارِ لَمَّا ظَهَرَ الْإِسْلَامُ بِالْمَدِينَةِ وَدَخَلَ فِيهِ مِنْ قَبَائِلِ الْأَوْسِ وَالْخَزْرَجِ. He said, verily, hypocrisy was in the clans of the Ansar when Islam spread in Medina, and the Aus and Khazraj adopted Islam. So this is Ibn Taymiyyah. He's saying that nifaq was prevalent in the Ansar. So, who is correct here? Is it Shamsi or Ibn Taymiyyah? He said all the Ansar are in Jannah. And also one point, I would like to make. He refused to read verse 9, 101. Why? Because, this can actually be used against him, aside, of the statement in verse 101. For example, in 9:100, As-Sabiqun al-Awwalun, from the Muhajirin, min al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar. They are men. So we are saying the men, based on Ibn Ashur's statement, is tab'id. It indicates some, not all. In verse 101, there is also min. It says, مِمَّنْ حَوْلَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ مُنَافِقُونَ وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ. From the people of Medina, they were hypocrites. Now, if he wants to say the mean in verse 100, it means bayan, then use the mean in 101 for bayan, and that will render all the inhabitants of Medina as hypocrites. 101 for bayan, and that will render all the inhabitants of Medina as hypocrites. 101 for bayan, and that will render all the inhabitants of Medina as hypocrites. 101 for bayan, and that will render all the inhabitants of Medina as hypocrites. 101 for bayan, and that will render all the inhabitants of Medina as hypocrites. So this is not an indication that the min is actually bayan, but it is tab'id. For example, if we say Algerians are from Africa, so all Algerians are from Africa. This is bayan. So the main based on Ibn Ashur's statement, it is tab'id, not bayan. So only some of the muhajirin and ansar we are sabiqun al-awwalun. So based on this, on the verses of the Quran, we can see even he doesn't even have a case if he understands the verse correctly. And another important question we can ask, were the verses on hypocrisy and hypocrites only about the people of Medina? Were there no verses of hypocrisy or about hypocrisy? So are there no verses about hypocrites in the in the Meccan period, in the period before the Hijrah? So are the people of Mecca, for example, immune, from hypocrisy? Because Ibn Taymiyyah is saying there was hypocrisy among the Ansar. What of the people of Mecca? Were there hypocrites among them? Why, don't generally the Muslims talk about the verses about hypocrites in Mecca before the Hijrah? They only recite those verses, but nobody speaks about them. Before, the conversion of Abdullah ibn Ubay in Medina, there were verses from the Quran that speaks about the hypocrites in Mecca. There were actually hypocrites in Mecca. So, for example, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 9, they think to deceive Allah and those who believe, but they deceive not except themselves and perceive it not. In 74:31, in 8:49, in 29:11 to 12. These are all verses about hypocrites in Mecca before the Hijrah. But today, every time hypocrisy is spoken about, we mention about hypocrites, everything goes on Abdullah bin Ubay. As if, nothing happened before the Hijrah about the hypocrites, nothing was stated. And he made, a lie. He said, Umar did not doubt the prophethood of Prophet Muhammad. He lied about Ubaidullah bin Jahash. He lied also about Umar ibn al-Khattab. So Umar ibn al-Khattab, he did doubt the Prophet at Hudaybiyah. In addition to the lie which he told about Ubaidullah bin Jahash, he said it was out of ghira for the religion that Umar questioned the Prophet. But this wasn't the case, because Umar himself confessed that he doubted the truthfulness of the Prophet after he submitted. He said, I never doubted since I submitted except on the day of Hudaybiyah. And his doubts, where he questioned the Prophet, then he questioned Abu Bakr, can be found in 27:31 and 27:32. In the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba, volume 5, page 330, he said, Wallahi ma shakaktu mundu aslamt illa yawma idin. That I did not doubt in the truthfulness of the Prophet since I submitted except on that day. And, he cannot use the Quran exclusively from Hadith. He is asking us, to support our beliefs using the Quran. And of course, I refuse to submit to, his cherry picking of one verse and giving the verse the wrong interpretation. I asked him if he's a Quranist for him to demand that he only wants to rely on the Quran. If what is found in his own books prove my case, just as he relies upon the Bible when he does da'wah to the Christians, then why should he reject anything other than the Quran? he poses the most stupid argument that he cannot argue with Shias based on Sunni hadith because Shias don't accept Sunni hadith as hujjah. Therefore, he uses only the Quran. If this was logical, then Christians should also reject his attempt to use the Bible against them because he doesn't believe in all the Bible or everything in the Bible. Well, at least there are common hadiths between the Shias and the Sunnis that we both, agree on. They are mutawatir. For example, hadith al-Thaqalain. I am asking again, is Shamsi Quranist? And if yes, what do his scholars say about someone who rejects the hadith or sunnah as proof and say he only accepts Quran alone, irrespective of the motivation? Of course, we'll give the position of Ibn Hazm. Ibn Hazm said, if anyone said, we do not accept but what is found in the Quran, then he will be a disbeliever by the ijma' of the ummah. So according to Ibn Hazm, Shamsi, he should be regarded as a disbeliever. And I will give a few more account of his scholars. For example, Abu Bakr al-Ajuri, he said in his book Kitab al-Sharia, volume 1, page 412, he said, I don't know if I mentioned the reference for Ibn Hazm's statement. It's in Ahkam fi Usul al-Ahkam, page 80. Then Abu Bakr al-Ajuri, he said in Kitab al-Sharia, volume 1, page 412, the decision about all the religious duties that Allah ordered in his book cannot be known without the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. This is the opinion of the scholars of Muslims. And anyone who says something different to this, then it throws those individuals out of the fold of Islam and they become apostate. So basically, the approach Shamsi is using is so problematic that according to his scholars, he is an apostate. Then Abdul Aziz ibn Baz in Majmu' al-Fatawa wa Maqalat, he said in volume 9, page 176, 179, 181, 184, he said, it is known by all scholars that the Sunnah is the second basis among Islam's bases, and its importance in Islam is prime after the Book of Allah, and it is the pillar relied upon after the Book of Allah with the consent of all scholars, and it is an independent standing argument over the Ummah. And the one who renounces it or denies it or claims that it is acceptable to object against it and sticks solely to the Holy Quran alone, then he is astray and commits bigger infidelity. They are renounced from Islam by this speech and by such a statement and belief, and he will be accusing Allah and His Messenger of lying and denying what Allah and His Messenger have recommended. And by abandoning a great source of knowledge that Allah has commanded to refer to and count on and follow it. So again, this is a fatwa of takfir, and inshallah I will end refuting this segment. We will listen to the fourth segment and then we will conclude inshallah.